In the heart of the vast, sun-drenched savannah lived a little lion cub named Leo. Unlike the other cubs who roared with might and pounced with glee, Leo was a bit different. He had the fluffiest mane and the brightest eyes, but his roar was more of a squeak, and his pounce was more of a wobble. The other animals would sometimes giggle. "Look at little Leo," they'd say, "he's as fierce as a butterfly." Leo would just lower his head, his tiny ears drooping. He wanted to be brave, just like his father, the king of the pride. He just didn't know how. One sunny afternoon, Leo's father gathered all the young cubs. "Today," he announced, his voice booming across the plains, "you will learn the most important lesson for a lion, the roar of courage." The cubs cheered, all except Leo, who tried to hide behind a tall blade of grass. One by one, the cubs stepped forward. They puffed out their chests, took a deep breath, and let out mighty roars that shook the leaves on the acacia trees. Then it was Leo's turn. He stepped forward, his little legs trembling. He took the deepest breath his small lungs could manage and let it out. A tiny, high-pitched mew escaped his lips. The other cubs burst into laughter. Tears welled up in Leo's eyes as he ran away, hiding himself in the cool shade of a baobab tree. As he sat there, feeling sorry for himself, a wise old tortoise named Tessa slowly ambled by. "What's troubling you, little one?" she asked in a gentle, crackly voice. Leo sniffled and explained his problem. "I'm not brave, Tessa. I can't roar like the others. I'll never be a real lion." Tessa smiled kindly. "Bravery isn't about how loud you can roar, Leo," she said. "True bravery comes from the heart. It's about facing your fears, no matter how small you feel." Leo looked at her, confused. "But how do I find that kind of bravery?" he asked. Tessa pointed her head towards the Whispering Canyon. "Legend says that at the very top grows the starlight flower. It's said to grant courage to whoever finds it." Every shadow looked like a scary monster. He was terrified and wanted to run back to the safety of the sunny savannah. But then he thought about the starlight flower and the courage it promised. He remembered his father's proud face. He had to keep going. Taking another deep breath, he started to sing a little song to himself, a silly tune his mother used to hum. The sound of his own voice, however small, chased away some of the scary silence. He focused on the path ahead, one paw in front of the other, and soon he emerged from the woods, blinking in the bright sunlight. He was now at the base of the Whispering Canyon. The final challenge was the winding climb. The path up the canyon wall was steep and narrow, with loose pebbles that slid under his paws. The wind howled around him, whispering doubts in his ear. "You're too small," it seemed to say. "You'll never make it." Leo's paws ached, and his heart pounded with exhaustion and fear. He looked down and saw how high he had climbed. He felt dizzy. He closed his eyes, thinking he couldn't go on. But in that moment, he didn't think about his squeaky roar or the other cubs laughing. He thought about crossing the giggling stream. He thought about walking through the shadowy woods. He had been scared, but he hadn't given up. He opened his eyes. He saw the world from a new perspective. He saw how far he had come all by himself. A new feeling washed over him, not courage from a magical flower, but a strength that came from within. He realized Tessa was right. Bravery wasn't a gift you received. It was something you built, one scary step at a time. With this newfound strength, he pushed himself up the last few feet of the climb, and there it was, at the very top of the canyon, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, was a single beautiful flower that shimmered like a tiny star, the starlight flower. It was even more beautiful than he had imagined. But as he looked at it, he knew he didn't need to pick it. The journey itself had given him what he was searching for. As Leo made his way back down the canyon, the journey felt different. The woods weren't as scary, and the stream was just a playful obstacle. He walked with his head held high, a new confidence in his step. By the time he reached the savannah, night had fallen, and the stars were twinkling brightly. He saw his pride, their faces etched with worry. His father rushed towards him. "Leo, where have you been?" "We were so worried." Leo looked up at his father, the mighty king. He didn't feel small anymore. He didn't try to hide. Suddenly, a loud growl echoed from the shadows. A pair of hungry hyenas had been stalking a young zebra, separated from its herd. The other lions tensed, ready to fight, but the hyenas were cunning and quick. Panic started to spread. The little zebra was frozen with fear. Leo saw the fear in the zebra's eyes, and it reminded him of how he had felt just that morning. Without thinking, he planted his paws firmly on the ground, filled his chest with all the air it could hold, and let out a roar. It wasn't a squeak. And it wasn't a mew. It was a loud, clear, and powerful roar that echoed across the savannah. It was the roar of courage he had earned. It was filled with the determination of crossing the stream, the bravery of walking through the woods, and the strength of climbing the canyon. The hyenas, startled by this unexpectedly mighty sound from such a small cub, froze in their tracks. But Leo's father and the other lions seized the moment, charging forward and chasing the bewildered hyenas away. The savannah was safe again. Everyone turned to look at Leo, their eyes wide with surprise and admiration. The cubs who had laughed at him were silent, their mouths agape. Leo's father walked over and nuzzled him proudly. "My son," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "That was the bravest roar I have ever heard." From that day on, no one ever called Leo the lion with the squeaky roar. He was known as Leo the Brave. He still had the fluffiest mane and the brightest eyes. But now, everyone knew that inside that small body was the heart of the mightiest of lions. And Leo learned that true courage isn't about being the biggest or the loudest. It's about finding the strength inside you to face your fears and stand up for what's right, no matter your size.